on Kia's late game power. You want to shut down the Jinx early. And the Rek'Sai ban here makes a lot of sense because it's one of Cuzz's favorites, and it is going to be a pick that you could snowball the game with, because that is the name of the game for KT right now. And, you know, I'd love to see an Azir ban here, to be totally honest with you, even though it's not a strong matchup into LeBlanc. You just want to remove two of the best scaling mid laners. Jace also, you know, something that you want to ban here is Damwon Kia. Like, you can't let that go through, I don't think.
Yeah.
Vex, also a great choice.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Vex away for that mid lane matchup. I think that everybody knows that it was more of a player diff rather than a champion issue that we had in game number 2. And the Vex definitely still viable in that case.
If Jace gets ahead early, builds lethality, you have Kalista, yeah, you just can't let this through. Like, if Damwon Kia let this one through, I would have had some serious questions about their ability to see drafts ahead of time.
Yeah.
Now, what's cool about this, too, is guess what's also open is the set, right? So they could actually pivot back to having Jarvan as the jungle and play the set bottom lane, too. So there's a lot of options here for KT to really try to snowball this game.
The Tom Kench, of course, going to give you a lot of survivability for the Jinx, and that's essentially what you're looking for. Try to hit level 6, try to keep her safe. If a lot of focus is shown down to the bottom side early, they can get on it, as Malzahar is going to be the choice, as Damwon Kia are really not messing around. I mean, putting ShowMaker on Malzahar, of all champions, like, yeah, we haven't seen it in a while, but, I mean, there's a reason for that, you know? Like,
super strong at locking down the hard engage of KT and turning fights. It becomes so easy to pull that off. It looks like it will be the Graves to come through here as the final pick right now. Viego jungle, Jarvan support, and the Graves top lane will be the setup here for KT Rolster. Graves going to do fairly well against the Gwen. You build the Hullbreaker early, your survivability goes up, and it's going to be about really how much power the Graves has around the early Rift Herald that you're most worried about as Damwon Kia. And then later on, you should be able to scale up very well. You have Jinx, you have Malzahar, who could single target blow up anybody.
Get ahead with this one. We'll see how it does go as we hop onto the Rift here for game number 3. Match 49, we're past the halfway point. 90 matches in a regular season of the LCK. 90 best of 3s. Lots of League of Legends.
Not my favorite skin, but, you know, which reminds me of the Cheerios bee. You know?
Yeah, it really does. Especially this one.
Yeah. ShowMaker's just telling everyone to lower their cholesterol.
Yeah.
That was one of the responses I got. I posted what I ate for lunch today on Twitter right before the broadcast, and someone was like, I'm really worried about your cholesterol, Korean fan. Okay. Maybe that's what's on my mind. I'm like, you know, I don't eat it too much. It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, Wolf very famous for his budae-jjigae addiction. But you don't actually eat it all the time. Not every day.
Especially when we're doing LCK, I just don't have time to eat budae-jjigae every day. I got it today, though.
Yeah. Budae-jjigae is like some kind of stew.
Yeah, it's, I mean...
The actual name is like army-based stew, yeah. But it's kind of hard to explain. I don't know. You're the guy. I'll leave it to you. I mean,
I don't want to get it. I don't know if I want to get the whole budae-jjigae explanation right now. We got Malzahar in the game. It's like way more interesting. But you know, if we get some downtime in this game, we'll come back. We'll visit again if there's a pause or something.
The last time Malzahar was played, Fly lost to ShowMaker, so ShowMaker's trying to turn that around, I guess.
Yep. Well, Malzahar is such an interesting pick because it's so fun to see this champion in pro play, because in solo queue, it feels like a pub stomp champion if you get ahead, and then it's a very easy champion to play if you're not very good at laning yet, because you just kind of press all of your abilities and then you chomp through the lane and you just push waves in nonstop and you have unlimited prio. Against bad players, you know, you're going to have a great time. So, you know, play it at home in your low-level games because it's super easy. But in pro play, the ability to lock down one champion basically no matter what all the time against a composition that is pick-based here and momentum-based on KT's side means that even some of their miraculous turns in the late game, if we do go to late game where they're like you know, only 2,000 gold ahead or something like that, and Damwon Kia's comp starting to turn, some of those miracle engages, fates calls, big explosive play from Aria could just be instantly locked down by the Malzahar, and then that champion dies, and the Damwon Kia have the better scaling, right? So it's a really cool pick into this comp for that reason.
KT able to spot the Lee Sin. Looks like down there in the tri-brush. Ward is going to expire. And Cuzz has that time to just pop in, take some of the Raptors down. Very nicely done. It's just going to be power farming here on the Viego to start things off. The Malzahar in the lane against the LeBlanc early on, not too fun. You need some levels in your abilities, a couple items, you know, Lost Chapter, and then you can kind of just press your buttons and get on in there.
Yeah, you can AFK the wave, basically,
yeah,
once you do that.
But for now, he's just going to get bursted down and just going to have to deal with it.
He'll be watching his passive cooldown very closely at all times. As this is a matchup where we've seen both the Gwen and the Graves do well. It's fairly volatile. The early part obviously going to be very favoring towards the Graves, but later on really just depends on summoners the Graves took, how much value he's going to get in side lanes, as Canyon's waiting.
And he is Lee Sin. He's down a level, but getting the jump on Rascal here, he should be totally fine, as now he's got Gwen coming down from the top side. He's just going to hop away. Obviously no pry out from mid for Damwon Kia, so Canyon just trying to be annoying there as the chains will land. Aria does get a nice amount of damage down.
Yeah, Aria really landing quite well into this in the early phase, and we've talked about Aria's champion pool a lot, and some of his picks he's very famous for is LeBlanc, right? His Akali, a lot of these assassin picks where he really does excel. You know, his Orianna was super famous back in the day, his Twisted Fate, right? He has a really wide champion pool, but when he gets on something like the LeBlanc, and he's up against a weak laner against it early, it's very fun to watch him at work, right? Like, because Aria's had kind of a bad rap here in the LCK because it's a tougher region than the LGL for being a bad laner. But in moments like this, you can see that he will push his advantages, right? And I do appreciate that. In a matchup like this, we actually get to see Aria 10 CS up 5 minutes, you know? These types of things where he's been the brunt of many a KT fan's woes. He's doing well here in the early game. See how long he can keep it up is the real question.
Yeah, feels good. Especially because he's offering so much to his team by having this matchup. Keep in mind that Damwon Kia are the ones that opted into picking Malzahar early on. And, I mean, they know what they're getting themselves into, right? This isn't the first time this has ever happened in League of Legends history, anything like that. And, you know, ShowMaker's finally getting some levels. It's going to slowly feel better and better about this. But you can see, like, all of the vision around this area is potentially because Cuzz can enter the jungle like this because he knows the mid lane just cannot punish him.
Yeah, this is the mid 2v2, basically turning into a 2v1, where Canyon cannot function in this game, and he's finding himself 10 CS down. His Raptor camp stolen once, like 1.5 times basically stolen away from him, and now, you know, he doesn't have a lot of power to stop Cuzz from just getting in here and stealing camps, being obnoxious, threatening ShowMaker. For now, right? This will change. And at the moment, it's a small 600 gold lead. Some of that in the CS and the bot and mid lane. And KT need more than this. But the fireworks are really going to start in 90 seconds around that Rift Herald. And that's when, you know, in this early game, the ult from Rascal is going to be extremely powerful. Like, we've seen Rift Herald fights decided by big ult hitting everybody on the enemy team, especially fragile champions like what Damwon Kia have towards the bottom side of the map. And I wonder if Damwon Kia will just simply avoid taking the Herald fight and try to farm elsewhere instead, because I think that might be one way you weather the storm, as Kellin almost getting caught here.
Oh, he's going to be knocked up as well. There's a lot of damage, and the respect is shown, the respect you need to show, just to make sure you don't get booped down there by the Callista. And especially with Cuzz down here on the bottom side, this allows them to get aggressive and make plays because they know they will have some safety. Don't have a full lockdown on Canyon because a lot of that vision has been cleared up.
The level 6 being hit here for Cuzz with all that stolen farm is also like really, really huge for a timing like this. And the respect is shown, as you mentioned. And unfortunately for KT Rolster, the bottom duo hasn't gotten any kills, haven't been able to push a big advantage. Like, they are winning, but that's a function of the lane and the matchup more than KT finding that proactivity successfully, right? Like, they are being proactive, but DWG KIA has shown so much respect that they don't actually get those early kills. Rifthold's up in 10, and you see the back here from aiming. Looks like he's planning on rotating over to look for the fight. KT,
they're going for this at 8 minutes.
yeah, they're like, as it spawns, Cuzz is hitting it.
Yeah, I mean, he picked up the red buff right before, right? Otherwise, he would look to clear his other camps on the top side of the map. And I think as DWG KIA, you just have to give this away. I mean, you're not really in a position with the prio from top and mid to fight over this, as KT will freely pick this one up, and you're late to the party. And it looks like KT do want to fight this, though. The stopwatch available there for life, kind of baiting his team into this one. He's just going to flash away. As KT, you do not need to take this fight, but it feels like they want to, as in goes Rascal. Big knock up over the wall, as that is just going to give DWG KIA a chance to win this one. They take out the Viego before he can get the resets. As a double kill will go into the hands of Canyon, but at the same time, KT pick up 2 kills of their own.
Still think this is a pretty big win for KT. The one thing that really hurts is that you have deokdam on the bottom side, still able to grab a plate or 2 here with this push. It's a cannon wave. Canyon's nowhere nearby.
So after Canyon retires, we'll just change all the cannons into canyons.
Just put his face at the front like Thomas the Tank Engine.
Oh my God, that's horrifying.
Dun, 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 dun.
Just make them into polar bears instead. I think that's a lot less scary.
What's the difference between Canyon and a polar bear? I don't see any.
That's true.
But KT, they end up having a bit of a sloppy engage here, but they still secure the Herald, right? They still secure the eye here. And Burdol actually absorbs a lot of this pressure. Life has to stopwatch early. And once he's out of this fight, DWG KIA feel very confident to actually collapse left. You know, Aria's out of the picture here. And yes, over the wall here you go, and then you're right into the meat grinder. Not the greatest fight here for KT. I think they could have been happy with the exchange they had, but they wanted to just say, okay, well, what if we get all of the kills? What if we snowball this even further? And that's what their comp wants to do. But I think they probably would have been happy with the eye and the exchange there, because the trade-off was a little bit of extra gold for DWG KIA. Still good for KT. They still need this eye, right? But DWG KIA are pretty happy probably with how things turned, considering how badly that could have gone if they had not gotten those extra kills there at the end. So 2 for 2.
Yeah, 2 for 2. deokdam only was able to pick up 1 plate in the bottom side. Not even sure if he was there for that gold. I would assume he was, based on, you know, just the situation in the game at that time. But yeah, KT, they're really getting everything right now. They have Cuzz, who's really far ahead. The mid lane went really well for Aria. And they're getting every objective. They got the Rift Herald. They have both of these early. And look at that. They have both of the early dragons, and it's Infernal Soul that is coming up. So if KT want to snowball this game, which, by the way, they got these 2 Drakes extremely early on, they will be able to.
Remember, in game 1, the first Drake wasn't taken until after 11. This game, the second one before. As here's the lockdown.
Lockdown. Can they burst down the LeBlanc? That's the question. He flashes away. Ignite and the E from the Malzahar coming in. They're trying to now combo onto Cuzz, who will heartbreak away. And no kills are going to come in, but definitely not the most comfortable position for KT.
Yeah. Definitely a bit of a heartbreaker there for DWG KIA. Not able to get either of those kills, but still will, for the first time, give ShowMaker a little bit of control of the lane. And notice with this, he's actually starting to even up the CS difference. Those skill points you were talking about and his abilities where you could push super hard, starting to come online.
deokdam's alone. Just going to lose his flash. As Canyon waited for the teleport back. That's so obnoxious.
Yep,
Aria is going to have to chug that pot.
I mean, ShowMaker now in a position to actually start threatening, side laning, start threatening plates in the mid lane if Aria is back. And so I respect Canyon's decision to just hover the mid lane and give a lot of gold over to this Malzahar if possible. Only picks up the 1 plate here. And as he is, of course, forced out of the lane, the Rift Herald will be dropped. Canyon's got to be really careful. He's playing so greedy this game, and this is not, I mean, he got 2 kills early.
It's really aggressive.
Yeah, he's not the 4-0 polar bear he was last game.
He's trying to make, like, every single play that's available. And, I mean, it is Canyon, so, I mean, after what happened in game 2, like you say, I mean, he's not as fed, but maybe he's feeling it now. You know, game 1 was very slow for him, I think, so Perhaps he's really trying to turn it around, try to carry his team. But that does come with some risks, Wolf.
Yeah. Now, the KT lead is not massive in terms of goal, but as you mentioned, the objective lead is so important with this Infernal Soul. And so they're just going to continue to try to control vision around the Drake. And the second Rift Herald would be nice for them to take too in 90 when it's up here, but it's not a must-win objective anymore. They've done enough with what they had early to feel pretty good about the damage they have on the map. One plate left here in the mid lane, a lot of extra gold to the LeBlanc, who is going to be one of the better scaling aspects of this comp for KT, because this game is not so one-sided that that's not going to be a thing. Okay. You and I were mauling about this yesterday, too.
Like, why are you back in there?
Yeah.
You only do that if you're extremely scared, and he really doesn't have much vision, so I guess that makes sense, but at the same time...
He got it, though.
Feels free, you know? He's got flash, too.
You want that 160, and it's going to be big. And, you know, I mean, we're going to have these moments, like these... It's almost like a heart rate monitor, where we're like, every time KT has an objective, they, like, spike for the fight is life.
Yeah, life is alone. Not too much to say about that. That is a free kill over to ShowMaker. Looks like he walked over potentially the Rift Scuttle. That is gone now, but they also have a ward there. Maybe that's a new word, but either way, they saw him coming, they knew where he was, and a very nice engage by Kellin.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate, because, I mean, now you give a bunch of extra gold over to DWG KIA. Like, the gold lead you want, like I was saying, as KT hitting the 20-minute mark is at least, like, 2,000, 2,500. Now you find yourself at only a 1,200 lead as Rascal just walking forward, no vision.
He's just, like, going for an afternoon walk. Like, what is that?
Bit of a jaunt, will you? Will you just walk right into the river there, or face decking bushes?
I'm Hullbreaker Graves. I can do anything I want. Yeah, definitely not the cleanest play we've ever seen. Definitely looked a little bit silly.
Well,
and, yeah, that's a free kill to Damwon.
2 free kills to Damwon. They will lose their turret, but it means that they have control over second Rift Herald. Something that KT didn't necessarily want to fight over because they wanted to put more of their focus on getting this Infernal Soul point set up. And so it's not the end of the world, but all this extra gold, all this extra money to DWG KIA just means that, you know, your lead is shrinking as KT. And it's a lead that's timing based, right, with this composition. That's what I think we really need to continue to stress to you guys watching this at home, is that KT aren't going to be able to compete with Damwon's comp at 20, 25 minutes with even gold. And so as that gets closer and closer to being a reality, like your goal as KT is to get Soul before Damwon are online. And now, you know, with the timing of this, it's a little bit lucky for them that at least they're going to be able to group up for this Drake, as Life just walking over that ward, which is very close to where the Rift Scuttle would be, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
And, yeah, gets punished.
Yeah. Here we go. I mean, Damwon, after the last couple of kills, they're not that far behind as Canyon goes in, takes a pretty big chunk of damage, trying to eliminate his fellow jungler on the opposite side. But yeah, Damwon, they're definitely gonna...
They can fight for this.
Yeah.
Which means KT, I mean, they missed the win condition. They should be dominating this. DWG KIA should be scared to fight this, but they're actually like, no, we win this easy. That means your comp is falling apart. You missed your window to have the lead you needed.
KT still have an opportunity to take this one. You can see that Rascal is very far on the opposite side, not around his team, though. He doesn't have Ghost either. He's finally going to jump in. Life gets that big engage with the Zhonya's. Pulled back with the Fate's Call. They get insane amounts of value out of all of those knockups, and DK, they're kind of scrambling now.
Aria, he needs another one of those big distortions.
Oh, that's a big smite that comes in from Canyon, as now Burdol, he's trying to lay in the needles, but it's not really working out. And Aria, he's looking for more. He might just be able to take out more than one. Not going to land that chain, though, as Burdol just barely going to go down. Life able to take him out with that flag. As the slow goes down onto deokdam, he's looking for that big rend set. Not quite going to happen. As KT, they lose the Drake, but this is a pretty big swing in their favor.
Now, DWG KIA lost a lot in this in terms of gold going over to KT, but they do slow the game down by, as you say, denying the soul point. Because now as Damwon Kia, if the next fight looks poor, if the setup is too good for KT, you can give this up and feel good. As Watch Life's engaged here, he used his stopwatch early, but now has Zhonya's. He put all of his money in this, then gets Fates called, and look who's trapped in the Cataclysm. Then Aria comes through to hit the big blast here with the distortion, but it's not enough damage here for KT, and you can see the longer the game goes, because like even in a situation where you had the best engage you are ever gonna get, like the best Fates call you are ever gonna see this game, and they still couldn't decisively win the fight, that's where you see the sun set on this composition. And yes, they did get some kills here, but they couldn't get the Drake, and they couldn't win the fight decisively. And so Damwon Kia, yes, you do lose a little bit of gold here, and KT get a little bit of an edge in terms of the team fight, but you're still feeling pretty good about how you're going to be able to function here 7 minutes from now when we're looking for what will be the actual soul fight against KT. Assuming KT can get the third Drake, which is not an easy assumption to make at this stage.
Yeah, I think that Damwon Kia are definitely sticking in it for sure. And as you mentioned, it's a very important point. Like, slowing down the game is exactly what you're trying to do in this scenario. And yeah, I mean, Damwon Kia, they can kind of go back to farming, you know, trying to get some items here on the Jinx, try to get some items onto the Gwen. Malzahar, he's just gonna, you know, suppress the enemy junglers, what he does. He'll be fine, regardless of the game state. You can see the big gold difference is, in fact, in the bottom lane. It's mostly in the hands of Aiming, who is 1-0-1. He already has 2 items completed. And it's a big lead that can even surpass, you know, meta expectations, right? Of like, okay, Kallista's not going to scale that well. But if you're like a super fed Kallista and you get that good team fight, you can still do some crazy stuff.
Yeah. And we talked about it earlier, and we discussed like how ShowMaker is starting to come online. And with the Leandries and with his kit, like he just burns down minions so quickly. He can push turrets really safely because of his passive, because of his ult. And whenever Burdol has teleport too, like he can basically push ad nauseum. And if he has a suppression and Burdol teleports in during that time, like that's just it. Like you actually either escape or get a kill. And KT don't have a comp that can really chase and punish split pushing Malzahar anymore, right? As long as the map control is there for Damwon Kia in that lane at that time, which ShowMaker, he got his turret bottom side. Now he can just freely farm on the top side of the map here. You're feeling really good as Damwon Kia right now, despite the gold deficit. And I want to see another great engage like what we saw from Life. He does have, you know, obviously Zhonya's is something he can repeatedly use, right? He used stopwatch early, then bought the Zhonya, so he has another opportunity for one of those big ones. But, I mean, it doesn't get much better than he got in the last one.
Guys, as you may know, 20 minutes is when the Baron spawns. And KT say, well, that's as good a time as any to just go for the Baron. And they're going to do it. There's zero vision here. Damwon Kia have no idea this is happening.
Look at the sell, too, from Aiming and Life. Like, they're selling this super hard.
They saw it, though. And I think with 20 minutes, Baron, you're not going to stick around for this one. So they go over the wall.
But this goes back to KT doing every objective on spawn because they need to push their lead. And they almost get away with this. Would have been a great way to actually kind of shore up some of the lost momentum they had, actually, after losing that soul point fight. Or losing the soul point Drake, that is to say. 45 seconds to go until this next one, and Damwon Kia do not feel absolutely pressured to take this fight. And they still might be able to do so, but they're not set up for it faster. KT will have the clear here on mid, and actually will have prio. But this means that ShowMaker could split push top. He has his teleport available. Or Burdol has teleport available, right? Like, you feel very comfortable here as Damwon Kia to give the soul point, because it's not the soul. The soul, you don't give that one away ever. But that's why that one Drake they get is so critical. It gives them so much breathing room here.
Yeah. And still fight over it. We got 10 seconds, and you can see they are milling about here in the mid lane. Zarya is trying to get some poke down. And you can see now we are actually going to have a fight over this. Damwon about 2,500 gold down as DWG shows, or rather not DWG, Burdol shows in the bottom side as this engage will not come through as there's the engage. Life gets into the backside as the huge knockup with a Fates call. KT tries to burst them down, but they fail as 2 kills go to DWG. The front to back is set up for them. And there you have it. Rascal's on the run. Aiming's on the run. DWG not quite able to take him out, but that's 3 kills for Damwon Kia.
Life was in the perfect spot to look for this. Like, that's why I was shouting for it. It was covered up by the UI there. The whole engage is on this Jarvan, and Damwon Kia get caught by it. He had a sweeper. He knew Damwon didn't know where he was. And it wasn't the miracle engage he had last time. Like, it wasn't even as good as last time. Where last time he did it face up. This time he didn't flash. He only got 2, really, with the Fate's Call knockup. But they still crushed the fight. Like, it's not even close. And that's why I said last time, like, with the perfect engage, how close it was means that the sun has set. Right? He ends up getting 2 with this. Hold back after the Zhonyas. And they collapse in. But look at the follow-up here.
Where's the damage?
Tom Kench is like, I knocked you guys up, and I have insane damage now. Deokdam is like, give me more.
Yeah. So true. They're already there. And the amount of counter CC that they had and the Devour to come in there as well, like, nobody's going down. You kind of missed your chance, KT. As Damwon Kia, they take a minuscule gold lead. But the gold does not tell even a tiny portion of this game. As Burdol is going to face check here. No vision, a very nice little gank brush as they somehow snuck around all this. The Needles like nearly kill 2 people and a third one there as well. But that's okay. I mean, Damwon Kia are still getting a big push down with this Baron buff.
Yeah, they have the Baron buff, and you know this is really unfortunate because it does give KT the opportunity to put Rascal in this top lane, control a lot of vision on the map, and this Baron buff gets quite hindered, to be just totally frank, by this. Still big gold here for Damwon. The problem is, like, how can you win a team fight as KT? You got this whole point. You know, that was something we kind of glossed over in that last exchange because Damwon bopped the team fight so hard that it felt like, I mean, do we even have a game to watch here anymore? Like, if, like, it gets harder and harder from here. But how do KT have a better setup, you know? One way they could theoretically win this game is by the LeBlanc picking somebody early on or catching somebody like Burdol here out in the jungle. Grabbing a stopwatch is also something that's pretty huge for them. Moments like this before an objective, like the timing of this isn't great for KT, but if this happens again or repeatedly for Damwon, maybe a miracle happens here and KT steal this series away. But otherwise, like, look at the gold. Damwon Kia about to crest with this Baron buff and the turrets they take down. KT's gold. They do. 100 the lead now at 25 minutes. And this is the 25-minute timer I've talked about so much all game long. This is where you start to really, as KT, feel the pressure. And the Malzahar continues to just run around the map and push things. That's what he does. Look at the graph.
You know, it's been a while since we've had Malzahar in a game, but you got to pay the tax, right? Aiming had to go for the QSS as his 3rd item, so that lead that he had, it's pretty much gone. You know, you have to pick that up just so you don't die to a Malzahar. We see Banshie's Veil 2nd on Aria. He doesn't go for like a Zhonya's or a damage item, right? That's a lot of damage lost just trying to survive by picking up a survivability item. So you're already behind in terms of composition at this point in the game, but then you have to spend money on items that just, you know, they're not going to help you in this position.
Yeah,
like, yeah, you survive, but then you die anyway because you're up against Jinx and a Gwen.
Yeah, it's like you're paying the tax, you're going bankrupt, like the fad. It feels like KT's comp is a fad, you know. It was like really cool in the early game. It was like really great. I mean, you see that Fate's Call, man? That was so cool. But that's so 20 minutes ago, you know.
Yeah.
Like that's so 17 minutes ago on that first Rift Herald fight. This comp, it's not cool anymore. KT, you spend all your money on this. You're bankrupt now. How do you win against Damwon Kia? It's not going to happen. I mean, unless a miracle occurs, right, or some sort of crazy pick happens. Is at least they're side laning really well. You know, like we've got a LeBlanc in the bottom lane. Rascal's trying to get this inner turret. That's going to be some extra gold. But the gold isn't going to make your comp better, unfortunately. But it can give you a 3rd item here as Rascal, right? It can give you a little bit more pressure on inhibitors.
It's a good time to go for that kind of split push because you have teleports available on both of your solo laners, Rascal and Aria. Damwon Kia, they have to group up here because they cannot give away Infernal Soul because crazy things can happen when you give away souls like an Infernal, right? If this were Cloud, Damwon Kia, they might be pushing top right now. Probably not, but you get my point. So Damwon Kia, they're here, 5v5. We're going to have a showdown once again.
Always watch where life is before these fights break out. He's silenced now. If he can get the angle here, that would be the big win, right? I mean, that's the hope.
Yeah.
And then maybe you see a Rascal layered on top. These are the ways this could work out. Aria's like desperately trying to poke.
You can see how they're trying to get this out as Hold That Thought aiming goes into the back line and down he goes. Burdol just going to sweep him up with the needles, and that's all they needed to do. Once the Kallista's out, you're losing so much of your damage, and that will be KT giving up on the fight. DWG KIA pick up the second Drake, the Infernal Drake, as KT, they're trying to get something else pretty tricky going here.
Yeah, I like this play, considering that Burdol just doesn't have any opportunity to escape here, and even with Ultimate will not be able to trade anything back. Buys a lot of time. ED for sure.
Yeah.
But he's down, but what do you do next as KT? Like, DWG KIA are kind of like, yeah, so what? Because it still doesn't make your comp better at all. If Rascal starts threatening inhibitors, we could have a real conversation about what the side laning means. But at the moment, he's just getting gold, which unfortunately serves very little function in these team fights. Like, watch this fight again, and notice how it breaks out so quickly. And aiming is the whole crux of this. And he has to be in a spot like this, because he has to be close enough for life to actually face call life when life goes in. So he's in a vulnerable place. He's just instantly blown up by a sick play from Canyon.
This is not easy to do.
Yeah. And look at him go. He just goes straight onto the board, gets behind him, taxis over. And like,
land a Q, hop to a ward that's nearby, and then kick flash. You guys trying to get that down?
And then obviously Burdol, buys some time here, does go down. But eventually we will get to another Baron fight where DWG KIA can, if they win Baron, push down inhibitors and probably win the game, or the Elder fight, later on. As KT, like, the pendulum can swing back in some ways, like the pick potential I was talking about, or maybe KT, like, suddenly we get to the extreme late game, and then one pick and the death timers that come with that can actually win you the game. But it is, you're feeling really depressed if you're any of the 5 KT players right now trying to figure out how to win this game. They've made great calls, right? They punished Burdol twice. They've looked for picks in the jungle. They're trying to clear vision away of these objectives.
Yeah, more picks, please, is what they're saying. They just want more choices,
Yeah.
And I don't think DWG KIA is going to give them many choices, any more picks here in this game. And you can see DWG KIA now, they're very aggressively positioning around this Baron because they know that, at any point right now, like, they don't have to do this, but you can if you're feeling very comfortable, very confident in your position. But for DWG, you can wait it out. Maybe you're feeling a little bit apprehensive because your Gwen is getting totally rocked in the side lane multiple times in a row. So maybe you want to accelerate it a little bit, but at the same time, I think they could take their time, but they are going to go onto this Baron.
This is a little bit greedier than what they were doing before, but they're going to commit either way. Graves does not have teleport, and they know it.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing here. 5v4, as the junglers here, though, Cuzz is going to get slowed down, and nothing is going to happen. KT not willing to flip over that one because it is not 5v5, as Cuzz still getting locked down. Here's the engage, and Life just gets 100 to 1 on the backside of that. Fate's Call will save him, as the rocket nearly takes him out on the backside of that. But at the end of the day, it's dumb when you're like, well, free Baron.
Yeah, free Baron, and you also pulled Rascal out of the side lane, so he's not able to further push towards those inhibitor turrets. And Life, these engages, they get harder to pull off, right? Like at the beginning of the game, he had the bestest Estes ever. Like the greatest, like that you could ever see. And then here in this one, he's like waiting for my moment. And here we go. And then he gets kicked away instantly and then blown up by Cannon. He has to stop watching. Then there is nothing you can do as KT anymore. There is nothing. You don't have an AD carry. You have a Callista who has 3 items and a BF sword, but won't be able to fight into this. And if she does get suppressed, or if she does get kicked, or if she does get collapsed on by a Gwen, she's dead. She can't fight the long fight. She has no range. There is no front to back here.
And against Baron, you can't even use that kind of split-pushing shenanigans we were seeing before too much, at least if DWG grouped up as 5 and pushed the lane, actually, as I thought they were going to do in the mid lane. But with this Infernal Drake coming out, looks like they want to set up vision and protect that. as now Rascal is with teleport, so actually he will be able to put on some pressure here for the next 30 seconds.
And also I love that he did this with Cuzz too, because Cuzz is in a position to where if somebody came alone, they could actually get a kill and then start to threaten a lot more. This might be enough to pull DWG KIA away from Drake Cryo.
Burdol's going in on this fight, but as you
Cuzz.
mentioned, Cuzz is here. The needles miss. As the stun and the flash come in, they're trying to get on top of Burdol. He has a Zhonya's, and he's trying to hop away and do the damage, but he cannot. As the Drake is coming up, Dominator left wondering, you know, what do? We got to burst this down, but we got to save our base. Looks like ShowMaker will be here to stop the push.
KT really looked like a little bit lost as to what to do in this moment because they're split up, right? 3v4, they can't win that fight around Drake. I mean, the 5v5, they're going to have a hard time, right? But especially 3v4 without all the pieces, without that Graves damage, it's so difficult to look for a fight there. They can't push to end either, and they still, despite the pick onto Burdol, are unable to get the inhibitor. So this is that duo I was talking about, where Cuzz is here, so Rascal can do this, and if one comes to answer, you kill the one, right? 2v1 here, and they handle this so well. Burdol buys a lot of time, and because Baron is up on these players, they actually have empowered recalls, and so that's what allows them to come back quickly enough here to stop the inhibitor. Rascal's like, please, let me get it, and they're all calling like, no, you gotta back out, man. They have empowered recalls.
Yeah.
It's like KT are they're making all the right choices despite where their comp is at right now, but at the end of the day, there's big objectives coming online that they will have to fight for, right? The Soul, actually, finally for 3 Infernal DWG KIA, who already scale better.
Yeah.
You will have to win a 5v5 at some point.
A little bit of an issue, you could say. The Hex Drinker is completed for the Jinx, and I think it's because deokdam says, well, I have enough damage. Let's get some more survivability and just make sure I don't die to LeBlanc, which is definitely one of the choices, one of the people that could take you out.
The itemization here is really good for DWG KIA. Ma early for Canny, but that's super early, as you pointed out. Now he has a GA. And total damage to turrets here is an interesting stat to look at because you pointed out already how much the Callista did early on, but is unable to do so now. And Rascal, you know, obviously has been sidelining quite a lot, but it hasn't led to an inhibitor. Because if you get an inhibitor, then suddenly you get map control, so you can make tricky plays. Suddenly you're pulling one player from DWG KIA around the map, playing a little bit of tennis. But
yeah, DWG KIA are trying to take a Baron, but you're like pushing to end.
Yeah.
It can get very, very tricky in that sense, especially with all of the mobility that they have, like Viego, Graves, LeBlanc. Those are hard champions to lock down.
It's crazy how this third Drake for KT, the one where they lost the fight but got point, actually bought them enough time to like maybe side lane their way into some sneaky plays, right? Like it's still not there yet, but DWG KIA are like, well, we're getting a little bit outpaced by you, and DWG KIA are just not going to mess this up. Like they're playing so passively and so safe. I think DWG could also be a little bit more aggressive on the map to try to punish these plays. But the volatility of doing that is so high, and this is game 3, right? It might be their first game 3 win of the season. So what he's doing right now is staying in this lane. So what I mean, it's actually a smart move here from Cuzz. So what he's doing is he's actually threatening a side lane. If they show, he can actually push. And if they don't show, then he just backs, right? So he's kind of waiting it out a little bit longer. And then if they show on the other side of the map or they are grouped up, then he actually tries to push down for that inhibitor. That's the idea here.
It feels like he's waiting for an item as well.
Yeah, what is he buying?
So maybe he like wanted to get to the top side and farm, but like couldn't. So Blade of Rune King will come in, and yeah, I mean it's a good item to have here for this moment in time. We have Cleanse Ghost right now for ShowMaker. Not trolling, just Unsealed Spellbook.
Yeah, Unsealed Spellbook and actually really strong to this comp. Both of these right now for the final fight, which will very likely be on the Soul. KT have vision control here, and they know Gwen's bottom. They just pinged her, but she has Unsealed or Unleashed Teleport. She can come over here.
Cannon waiting, always hunting.
Rascal also trying to threaten an inhibitor, going to force Gwen over here.
Yeah. This is great. I mean, you still have Teleport, you still have Ghost. You're going to be very safe. You have tons of vision over there as well. So the second that DWG KIA begin to threaten your side push, you can just back away, or you can teleport away, or you can do whatever you need to do to win your team the fight. As the Infernal is coming up here in 50 seconds, And the Baron is available. So
yeah, this is actually really, unfortunately for Damwon Kia, the fact that these are so close is really frustrating. Like, you actually have to deal with both here, and that means that KT have an opportunity for a surprise engage because they have vision control around the one that's active now. As Damwon would be willing to trade 1-for-1, but the timing is not there, right? Like, there's 30 seconds left.
It's a pretty thick wave down there in the bottom side.
This is Damwon Kia just really slow playing this.
Oh, they got the Banshee's Veil out of Aria. It's actually really important to do that just so that if he does hop in and, you know, try to get some damage down, you can just immediately ult him.
It's
because
crazy.
Aria opted into the Banshee's Veil rather than a QSS of his own.
It's crazy how difficult it's been for them to do the same to ShowMaker, who's just with his shield all the time. They will get the soul. KT a little bit too slow to punish.
Yeah.
And, you know, now they can't even stop them on the rotation over to Baron. The ability to pilot what KT are running with this comp, this stage of the game, is so difficult because you have to have the great wombo combo, you have to hit all of your damage perfectly, and you have to position well, and you have to play around the suppression, you have to play around the Jinx poke. Like, the fact that KT haven't died yet is actually a testament to how good this team has played this composition and clearly how much they've scrimmed it from behind. Because teams will often just straight up run a scrim where they're like, all right, well, let's try to see if we can fall behind this comp and how do we play it there. Like, that's a scrim you run with early game comps. And KT, they're not ahead and they're not in a position to win this game by any means, but the fact that they're still in it, I think is really something to note here.
Yeah, at the same time, you know, there is a lot of catch on their side, so Damwon Kia, I think, are playing overly safe to potentially even a fault, where it's like, we're just going to get every single objective. As Aria does a great job there, still has that Banshee's Veil available as the TP is coming in. Canyon pretty low. You see Aria over the top once again. The engage from Life as the rest of KT not really getting on in there as the flash comes forward from ShowMaker, but he's getting burst down. He's going to have that Zhonya's, though, and deokdam is so safe on the backside the entire time. Perfect positioning. Cuzz is trying to get on top of him, but he will survive. As a triple kill here for deokdam, and Aria will be the last one to go down. Damwon Kia, they will end up with the victory with the Infernal Soul and push down mid.
Their first win in a Game 3 of the season. It took 5, but they will finally close this one out. They had the better composition for the late game. KT's composition had a few great engages early, but they weren't able to hold on to the lead. They did their best. They played around a slow and patient Damwon Kia in the side lanes, but it is Damwon who take the last Baron and take the game here in the end. Great block there on the Fate's call as well to make sure it couldn't actually blow up deokdam, couldn't blow up Canyon. Positioning was everything in that last fight. And Damwon Kia, they crossed their T's, they dotted their I's. They were not going to lose that game. That was a very clear theme for them post 30 minutes. It's like, all right, just group up as 5, play perfectly safe, don't take any risks, not even one. And then we'll take the best of 3 in the end.
It's important to do that too, especially when you know you have the ability to play very well. But on days where things aren't quite going your way, you don't want to drop Game 3s over and over because those are series you're dropping, those are games you're dropping that you could be taking if you were just a little bit cleaner, a little bit more patient. And that is what we saw to an extreme here tonight from Damwon Kia. Sometimes it was forced upon them by some of their drafts, but other times, just making sure 100% they can get the win.
And and I mentioned it earlier, we've talked about it a lot this season. It was Damwon Kia who played this style of comp around, not the Callista, but around early jungle control with Canyon, right? And then KT adapted their Callista set version of it, then the Callista Jarvan, which is very reminiscent, of course, of life on Gen.G last year. And it feels like the tragedy of KT is that they play great macro games. They can get ahead early. They sometimes fall apart in the late game, to be fair. But in a best of 3, if things get hard, they always fall back to this crutch of the what's life gonna Fates call in with, and what are we gonna what are we gonna do when we, you know, if we can't win the game early? Like, how do we play? Like, it feels like KT is so reliant on this, and it's something that really holds them back. At first, it was cool. It was stylistic. It was fun. It was a throwback, and now it's like, this one again? We doing this? Like, set flashing in at level 2 again? We doing that one again?
Yeah,
like, I've seen this move before.
It works. It works sometimes.
But to push into the upper echelon, right?
Yeah.
To beat the bottom 4 teams.
Maybe they beat Gen-G, but maybe that just wasn't Gen-G's day. KT were a lot cleaner on that day, I have to say, compared to today.
I thought KT's game 1 was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And game 2 was okay, but game 3, you know, you put yourself into such a polarizing comp like this against a strong team who knows how to deal with it, and it just feels feeble. Like it feels like there's never any moment where you go, oh, KT have totally got this right against a team like Damwon Kia who just knows how to fight around it. And Life had so many good moments. Those first 2 engages for him were so great, and it just still wasn't enough. And that makes you wonder, like, is this comp dated? Yes, I think it is. Is this comp figured out? Yes. And guess who was one of the best teams at shutting down Gen-G running this last year when it was common? Damwon Kia, they know how to play around this, right? And I think it was KT, once again, just falling back to what has worked in the past, but won't necessarily work against a 3-time back-to-back LCK champion.
It's kind of interesting because you see him Cataclysm there. One guy gets devoured, the other guy is Lee Sin, who hops out.
Yeah.
So it's like, what exactly are you Cataclysming anyway? You know, like, if you had caught Tahm Kench, maybe you keep them in the same place, but he still gets devoured? Like, I don't know. You know, some things, as you're mentioning, do go back to the draft. This was a really nice engage from Canyon, and the second we saw that, we're like, okay, put the stamp on the book. Like, this one is Damwon Kia's win.
칼리
Yeah,
주워놓거든?
this is the final moments here.
형아 빨리 갔다 이거. 징크스 발라 이긴다.
Just watching how systematic they handle this and like how clean the comms are just shows that Damwon Kia knew this. There's like no way they lose this fight as long as they play it slow, right? Like,
다행이다.
다행이다, like basically, oh thank God, like I'm so relieved. And I think they knew that like this is their first time winning a best of 3 that goes to game 3. Like there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of volatility,
라인도 세다. 세긴 하네.
a little bit of coughing.
They don't really say anything. They're just like so chill.
고생했어.
Good work. Everybody did a good job.
I feel like deokdam's trying to clear like the awkward silent air, you know what I mean? He's like, oh, like, good job, guys, you know, it's good. Like, I don't know. I mean, I thought it was okay. Game 1 was a little bit of a weak one, but